Hey, what's going on? My name is Colin Mason, and today I'm going to be peeling back the entire curtain and showing you what I have been building out inside of the Underdog Investor Group for the last several weeks, and we'll be launching it to the community here in the next couple of weeks as well. And ultimately, what I have done is I have condensed and combined a lot of our incredible content, our frameworks, our reports, our guides, our strategies, our education, all into one flowing gamified system. And it's been a blast to build, but I think it'll be really helpful for people who are wanting sort of an A to Z structure to learn as well as taking action. So one of the things I wanted to share and sort of been the cornerstone of me building this out is by the end of this experience, by the end of Quest 12, as I've built it out as of right now, what do I want people to walk away with? I want people to walk away with a fully built out crypto DeFi business plan and system. And a system is comprised of a bunch of different mechanisms that allow us to have a beautiful image, a beautiful picture of our strategies, our goals, our targets, our KPIs, the metrics that we need to pay attention to on a daily and weekly basis to actually check the pulse and actually see what is the health of our entire system. And so what I wanted to show just really quick was sort of behind the scenes. And again, this is not live yet. It's something I've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and I'm still working on it. But the idea here is that every quest that you work through inside of the educational portal, what we might be calling the DeFi Academy here pretty soon, is setting a really strong foundation from the get-go. Because what I see too often in this space, unfortunately, and it breaks my heart sometimes, is people take their poker chips, people take their hard-earned capital that they have, and they sit down at a random table, they push the chips to the middle of the table, and they just sit there and they just hope. They hope that it works out for them. They hope that when they put capital inside of a liquidity pool that they're going to get the desired results that they want. And it doesn't necessarily work like that. We have to have a structured strategy, we have to have a system set up, and we have to think about portfolio allocation, portfolio management, and just risk assessment. Like, how much risk are we actually taking when we are depositing capital into various different chains, platforms, dexes, liquidity pools, lending positions, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into this. This is not an easy thing. If you're joining the UIG and just thinking that you're just going to be able to master these skill sets in the first couple of hours, it's not going to be true. I need you to commit to this. I need you to sit down and just think about this as like as an academy, as a university of decentralized finance. You are mastering these skill sets, and it's not going to be done here in the first few hours. And so anyways, what I wanted to show you is, after every single quest that we have, vision and foundation, system setup here, we have the DeFi skill sets, we have liquidity providing, we have lending and borrowing. All of these sections are going to help you build the skill sets necessary to take action and actually get results, right? But through this, I don't want you to just go through the education, learn something, and then just keep moving on. It's like we need to learn, and then we need to take action. And that action's what's really going to solidify what you just learned. And so the way I've structured this is, you're going to learn something that's really going to be really valuable. You're going to take action on it. And a lot of those actions relate back to the system setup, or what I call the Miro board, or our crypto DeFi business plan. And I actually wanted to show you that today. I actually wanted to literally peel back the curtain and show you exactly what I've been building, so that you know what to expect. And so I'll just show you really quick. At the end of every quest, there's going to be a business plan, or what I'm calling the Miro board. I'll probably change the name up a little bit as it's still in a rough draft, but the business plan is our visual system. I actually just want to show you. It's our visual map of our goals, our KPIs, our scoreboard, any links to our tracking system, or any links to our different DeFi positions, our weekly portfolio management checklist, or potentially even a daily, depending on how active you want to be, our portfolio allocation, our target, as well as our actual, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. And our wallet system. How could I forget about that? Our wallet system that's going to be laid out here, as well as our goals, what we're trying to achieve, and our actual system setup that I have here, our actual strategies and current positions. And so the idea, just to kind of, again, show you behind the scenes, the idea is, after every single quest, you're going to be directed back to your business plan and add a few pieces in. So as you work through the quests, pieces will be added to the system. And so by the end of Quest 12 here, I'll show you everything. I don't hide anything. At the end of Quest 12 here, you will have a beautifully built out system that has all of these bits and pieces combined into one visual board, so that when you do your weekly portfolio management checklist, or you are wanting to make adjustments because maybe there's a new trend that's starting to form on the macro level, and you're like, okay, well, let me look at my system. What do I currently have built? And then do I need to make any shifts and changes? And this is how we can make it. If we don't have this visual map of what we're building, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And again, we're just taking our chips, tossing it to the middle of the table and just hoping that things work out. And I'm telling you, that's in this space especially, that's a recipe for disaster. We have to have our risk management laid out. We have to have our strategies laid out and our goals, because all of the actions that we take have to relate back to our goals. And unfortunately, more often than not, if we aren't clear on our goals, the actions we take might feel good because, again, we're putting chips in the middle of the table. But if we are not going in with a strategy with an outcome in mind, it's not going to be successful long term. You might win here or there. I'm not saying you're not going to win, but long term, it's going to be more challenging. And so getting extremely clear on the foundations by setting the goals. And for some of you, there might be some resistance with that. It's like, I don't really even know what I want. I just want to make a bunch of money. And although that might like feel like a good goal, the more clarity and the more specific we can be, the better results we're going to get because of it. Because the actions we take are going to align with those goals. So I'll just give you a quick example. I just kind of map this out as a template here. But if my goal is to accumulate more Bitcoin, let's say, or just to accumulate more crypto assets and store those for a long-term storage on my cold storage wallet. And then maybe my second goal is to take $200 per month out of my DeFi cash flow system to pay for a car payment, let's say. Or, and what I like to do actually is like, here's my kind of immediate goals and then a couple of my long-term goals. So an example I put here was for a long-term goal was, hey, to cash flow $2,500 per month to pay for rent out of my DeFi portfolio. And so extracting the rewards, extracting the fees that I've earned and not compounding it back into the system, not buying more things, but to extract it, to pull it out of the system to actually pay for something in my life, So that was the example I used for maybe potentially more of a long-term play. And so based on those goals, now I can go through the strategies here. And I'll show you just really quick. Quest 7 is where we really go deep into the strategies that we have. And the strategies are for bullish times, for bearish times, and if we want to be hedge or delta neutral or do some arbitrage opportunities. There's a lot of different strategies that we can look at, but all of those strategies relate back to our goals. And so if my goal is to accumulate Bitcoin and to pull out $200 per month to pay for my car payment, how can I structure the strategies? How can I structure my DeFi positions here to help me achieve that? And so very easily here, I just said, okay, well, if my mission is to accumulate Bitcoin, well, there's a couple different things I could do. I can go directly into a liquidity pool, let's say. I could lend Bitcoin and just lend it and just continue to accumulate that way. You may not earn a big APR. You might have like 1% APR, but some people might want that. For other people who might want a little bit more risk, but also more reward, a liquidity pool might be the approach you take. And so based on your learnings as you go through the UIG's content, you might go, okay, well, I think a liquidity pool works best for my mission to accumulate more Bitcoin, but instead of going directly into a liquidity pool, maybe one want to do a lending and borrowing strategy, which is a little bit more advanced. But if I want to lend something I'm already owning like ETH and borrow stable coins against it, and then put those borrowed stables into a liquidity pool that pumps out cash flow and rewards to move that over into Bitcoin, that's an opportunity to do. So anyways, I'm not going to go too deep into that strategy specifically, but I was just showing an example of how can we set up a strategy to help us achieve the goal that we want, which is to accumulate more Bitcoin. And then down here for number 2 is maybe I want to take owned capital and deposit that into 2 liquidity pools that produce fees. And maybe what I'll do, again, if my goal is to take out $200 per month, maybe the first $200 that I earn as rewards here, I withdraw. And then the rest of the rewards, maybe I compound back into the liquidity pools to keep bolstering the system. So hopefully this is making sense. There was actually a gentleman that was in the UIG and he had a beautifully laid out spreadsheet where it was like all of his DeFi positions had a mission. It was like, this liquidity pool is to pay for this. This liquidity pool is to do this. And this liquidity pool is to do this. And he had this beautiful, I remember it was a long time ago, but he had this beautiful spreadsheet that showed exactly where the fees and rewards were going to. And because of that system, I'm sure he was well on his way to hit his goals. And so anyways, just wanted to share that with you today, is that you have to have a plan. You got to have a plan. You got to have a system. And the system, in my opinion, needs to be built piece to piece to piece. And with those pieces, it can all accumulate and come together here to fit into a nice system, so that when you start your weekly checklist, or maybe your daily, you hop on the computer, you're like, okay, I'm ready to check my DeFi positions. Instead of randomly just looking at your pools or looking at your lending positions and just saying, okay, everything looks like it's fine, or maybe, oh, maybe this isn't looking so good, or maybe this is looking really good. No matter what it is, if you don't have a system set up like this, you're most likely going to be emotionally checking and just like looking and not really sure what the pulse check is, not really know what the health factor is on those positions. But again, if you have a beautifully laid out system like this, now you can come in here and you can see, okay, what's my target allocation in terms of my risk? This is what it actually is. Okay, it's right on target. I'm good. Or, hey, here are some KPIs. Here are some metrics that I need to know. I need to know my LTVs, and I need to know I need to know what my debt to overall portfolio ratio is. Okay, if those are the two KPIs that I'm paying attention to, key performance indicators, if those are the two KPIs I'm paying attention to, well, now I can just check that on a daily basis, and I can put my finger on the pulse, and I can see what is the health of my overall portfolio based on those two KPIs. And these are the things that we build and are going to be talking about throughout this UIG experience. So hopefully this is making sense. If you're inside the UIG, get ready. This thing should be launching fairly soon. If you're not in the UIG, would love to have you here. Would love to have you work through that system and start to build this out for yourself. And if you're not in those communities and you're just watching it on YouTube or another channel of ours, just make sure you're taking action. Learn the concepts, take the action, build these things piece by piece, and after a little bit, you'll have a beautiful system that you can refer back to on a daily and weekly basis. So if you want a kind of a part two, or if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below, and I'll do my very best to help create content that helps you, build out these systems and get you all set up and rocking and rolling. So with that being said, my name is Colin. It's a pleasure to have you here, and with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.